Your bags are packed and you're ready to enjoy a much needed vacation. You arrive at the airport and you're delayed because you were unaware of new protocols. When you land, you're not sure who to use for reliable ground transportation. You arrive at your resort to find it doesn't look like the brochures and your accommodations aren't ready. You've just lost an entire day trying to get settled and you still have to find things to do while on vacation. Destinations and Occasions is your premier concierge travel and event planner. At DNO, every detail of your trip is vetted for quality to create a great client experience. We're even accessible while you're away to take care of any concerns that may arise. Call us today at 510-459-7732 to plan your next vacation. Or visit us on the web at destinationsandoccasions.com. Destinations and Occasions. Details is what we do.
Welcome to Boss Talk Radio. Glad to have you guys back. I know you probably missed me. I definitely miss you. Man, it has been a busy summer. And the crazy part about that is, of course, when you're out of office like this, by the time you get back, you're just buried under a mountain of work. And then at the same time, when you think like me, of course, there's a bunch of new stuff that you have to do. So we're bringing aboard a lot of new team members. If you haven't put your application yet and you want to work with Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services, be sure to go to the site and click on Join Our Team for an opportunity in whatever talents you have, whether it's graphics, accounting, whatever it may be. So I'm often asked, well, what exactly do you do? So for starters, we do advanced tax strategy planning for high net worth individuals and business owners and save them hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes each year. In addition to that, solve tax problems. If you have a IRS audit, if you have a lien levy, if you need some relief, if you've been unjustly stuck with a tax bill by your spouse or ex-spouse, if your wages are being garnished or you have back taxes, give us a call at 866-2-ELITE-8. That's 866-235-4838 and get behind the shield. As you know, back in the summer, we started our boss coaching program. It already has rave reviews. Business owners are really starting to be able to connect the dots, have more efficiency in their businesses, and know how to read their numbers and make data-driven decisions based on the numbers that they have. But another very exciting thing that we're offering now, coming up in November, we are launching the first Elite 8 Tax Pro Academy. Probably gave it away with the message scrolling across the bottom of the shield, but that is coming to you guys live in November. And early registration opens on Monday, August 29th. So get this message into your phone, the website to register and save 15% on your annual tuition is elitepts.com/product/early-bird-tax-pro-academy -registration /. There's a lot of dashes and slashes, but the website itself will be much easier once we get to that. So all of that's in development, and I'm really excited about that. And, in this process I had a very small team early on that did my graphics and my websites, my travel and operations and everything. But over the last 6 months, things have just gotten so busy that we had to expand. And so that involved a lot of automations, that involved bringing on new developers, that involved bringing on new graphics people and everything. So really excited about what's been going on. If you follow my page, you've seen me traveling from California to Atlanta and back, doing conferences and speaking on the matter of taxes. And I have to tell you, it's really exciting when you're working in peer groups versus, I've always done speaking, but it's typically been nonprofits, business associations, U.S. chamber, stuff like that. but when you start to speak to your own peer group, people that do what you do and have been doing it for even longer than you, and garnering that level of respect, it's really, really refreshing. So this is Boss Talk Radio. Of course, you know the rules. If this is your first time, get your pen, pad, tablet, whatever it is you do to take notes, because, of course, we're going to be giving you guys a lot of information. That's step one. Step two, share the video. Go ahead and share the video. If you are watching or if you are listening to the replay on your favorite podcast player, be sure to share that out on your social media as well. So today we're going to be talking about the pain of payment processing, some hidden costs that I realize a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners just do not see. So we have one of our special guests, actually one of my business partners in this matter, on today, and he's going to be talking more about that. We actually had a long conversation this morning, because when I was launching this new thing, I was like, hey, I want these folks to go somewhere else. So what was supposed to be a 15-minute call, if you've ever been around me, I get excited talking about business. So what was intended to be a 15-minute call ended up being like an hour and a half. But we had a great exchange, shared some great information, and decided, hey, well, let's go on the show today and talk about this thing, because too many people are missing out on it. So we're going to pay some bills, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to Boss Talk Radio, the #1 online business and entrepreneurial talk show. Brought to you by Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services.
Boss Talk Radio, keeping it real, yeah, that's for sure. I said a Boss Talk Radio, here for your needs, we'll crack the code. He the boss.
He gon' fix your situation like there ain't no time for wasting. We ain't playing when we saying
He the boss.
And if you ever have a problem, he gon' show you how to solve it. Listen in and he'll show you he the boss.
Talk
Here's your host, the Texas tax expert, George Vandridge.
Boss Talk Radio, here for your needs, we'll crack the code. He the boss.
So we have some people that are actually joining us now from Instagram. As you probably can tell, I went to playing with that lighting and really didn't know what I was doing, but it was an impromptu show, so nobody's in here with me to take care of those things. But if you're just tuning in, I want to mention to you again, Elite 8 Tax Pro Academy is coming to you in November. Early registration starts on Monday, August 29th. Go ahead and do the early registration using the link that's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. If you're listening to the replay on your favorite podcast player, that is elitepts.com/product/early bird tax pro academy registration. Go ahead and save that money and be ready for the 2023 filing season, and really learn how to ramp up your income. What's different with other academies is that we're not talking about just how to do a tax business and make extra money. We're really here to elevate the profession. But that neither here nor there. Want to introduce my guest for today, Mr. Trey Rush. And if you've seen this commercial, you've actually seen what we do together.
Taking payments from today's different platforms makes it harder to manage your business. Dealing with varying fees, reporting, and deposit times not only impacts your cash flow, it makes reconciliation a nightmare. Besides, all the payments are still tied to a debit or credit card. Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services provides your business with payment solutions that make reporting simple. You can manage inventory, host shopping carts, take POS payments, ACH payments, send invoices, and so much more. Most businesses save over $2,500 a year in processing fees, a real impact on your bottom line. To learn more and get customized payment solutions, visit elite8financial.com or give us a call at 866-2ELITE8. Get behind the shield.
So, in case you didn't know, I'm inside the studio application here, and if you're tuning in on Facebook, go ahead and give Facebook permission to use your name, so when you're shouting out, I know who I'm talking to. Uh, as a matter of fact, everybody go ahead and drop your names and where you're tuning in from. I'd like to know where our audience is coming in from. So give us your names, give us a shout out, let us know what city you're tuning in from. And as promised, I have Mr. Trey Rush on. How you doing today, sir?
I'm great, George. I appreciate you having me on, especially on such short notice.
Well, this is what we do. We don't make excuses, we make adjustments. You got to get it.
Make it happen.
So we had like a super interesting conversation this morning. It started off dealing with my needs, and we got off into everything from automations to future of technology, marketing strategies, and everything. It was kind of like a mini coaching exchange or whatever. But one of the things that we really hammered out was the hidden costs that people were not even realizing that they have in business. And sometimes those that are aware, there's this thought process of it's the cost of doing business, right? And it's like, well, you don't have to have that cost. And maybe even if you do want to absorb it, at least understand the total impact of it. So go ahead and tell everybody about yourself, your company, and what you do.
Well, first off, I appreciate you taking the rap for how long that phone call went. This whole time I was thinking it was my fault because I have a tendency to ramble on and on, especially when I get on a roll. But my name is Trey Rush. I own a merchant service brokerage, Paytech Plus. I've been in the industry since 2013. I started with a very large corporation in the payments world as a green pea rookie, didn't know anything about it. And I found out the ins and outs of the industry and how predatory it can be for small business owners, and how most of those large corporations don't have the small business owner in mind. They're after the big fish. They're after the Walmarts, the auto zones, the large commercial accounts, and the small business owner kind of gets the short end of the stick. So I started my company to create a different experience all around. Almost every business owner that I talk to on a daily basis before dealing with me, in most cases, they don't have a direct contact with their payment processor or an agent with their payment processor. If something goes sideways, they just have to call a 1-800 number, and then they're just kind of left to their own devices to figure this very complicated set of systems out. And some of them make it work the best they can, and some don't. But we're here to try to change as much of that as possible, and try to turn around some of the negative stigmas around the industry, and really prove that, that not all are bad. Some of them really can have your back and view each client as a partner, and we can grow together.
One of the things I notice is that a lot of people don't realize that there are options out there. They go to their business bank, and their business bank says, hey, to do a merchant account or whatever. And when they go to do it, they're being pushed to some outsourced brokerage or whatever with a very cold, relationship, regardless of what happens at the bank. Then there's, of course, those that reside to the options such as PayPal and Zelle and these different things or what have you. And so I know for me, the biggest value that you brought into my practice was the efficiency, the operational efficiency that came with that. Eliminating several tasks for me, where by today, those tasks are so heavy, I would have really had to employ another person to do them, and then have to go back and look over what they were doing. And the systems are so robust that it just eliminated those trials for me. And that wasn't even the benefit that I came for. That was just a byproduct, So, well, that's mostly what I came. The byproduct was the whole I forget what you call it, cost factor, whatever it was, where I'm not paying these exorbitant fees collectively as a business owner. So one of the things we talked about this morning was that space where, hey, if I had to pay all of this by myself at the end of the year, it looks like this versus each client paying this much or whatever makes a big difference in my bottom line. So I had some people of the mindset, these are the opposing mindsets to the offer of having the cash price versus the credit price. And it's crazy because when you walk into most convenience stores, they even have this now. They'll have a minimum for card use.
Absolutely.
It's worded differently, but that's what it is, a minimum for card use. And even dealing with some of the big boxes or whatever, like Amazon or whatever, people don't realize that they're still doing this. So we were just kicking around some numbers this morning, and we were talking about like Amazon, like the Prime membership. If you have 2 or 3 million people spending 125 or whatever it is per year, my wife does that. I don't get into the Prime stuff or whatever. I'll be like, hey, can you log into this account? But if you're doing 3 million people have an account at 150, 200 bucks annually, wow. You know what I mean? Like, wow. That's like some built-in stuff before you have products. So you don't mind giving away some free shipping or whatever, and it kind of eases those processing fees. But people have to understand those companies have massive numbers, and so the rates that they can get are super duper cheap, whether it's shipping, whether it's processing, whatever it is. And I'm sure by now they probably have an internal system. But the little guys, you and I, the little guys,
the backbone of America.
This is a real, cost. I had clients that were looking at in excess of $12,000 to $14,000 in merchant processing fees. And while you may want to take the mindset of, hey, it's the cost of doing business, it's a real impact on the bottom line. And if you hold your ground, what you'll find is that people will in fact pay for convenience. Now, some people say, hey, build it into the price. But every time you try to adjust the price for that, there's still that little bit more, for those charges or what have you. But on the other end of that, it's real simple when you pass it on because most people don't mind paying the convenience fees. Now, the early shoppers to the internet, like myself, telling my age, but we were a little bit more resistant and we don't like to pay fees or what have you. So, you can show us something that says $19.99 and it's a $3.99 shipping fee, and we're like scratching our head, but it's $24.99 on the other hand, and we just do it, right? But it's like it's one and the same, it's the same money. The rest is just mental or what have you. So when you really break that down, though, who shoulders that cost makes a difference. And to your point this morning, it's much easier for a single person to pay 10, 20, 30 bucks, depending on how high the ticket is in a convenience charge, than it is for that single person to do that times the number of transactions that they'll have. And, when you look at, like I said, a $14,000 impact on your bottom line, hey, in the late 80s, that'd have bought a Camry.
You can probably be driving today.
Right. So tell people a little bit about the product offerings themselves, because I love the flexibility of the customization in it, but I don't want to try to, speak like I really know that area. Let you tell them about that.
Well, so to your point, there's actually a couple different environments. There's a card present environment, which would be your typical retail, walk into a brick or mortar store. And these types of programs have actually changed in the industry recently. Whereas before they would have a non-cash adjustment, and what essentially was happening was when a customer would pay with a credit card, the machine would automatically add a small fee to that ticket, offsetting the cost. And and they would call it a cash discount, and that has been very popular for a number of years. Well, that's actually changing. Visa, MasterCard, mostly Visa, kind of started throwing a fit about it. Long story short, nothing's really been done enforcement wise, but they put a note out to all the major acquirers and ISOs out there that they weren't really happy about this practice. And so what I think has happened is a really good step for the industry. They've shifted more towards a dual price. Essentially, it's the same thing. Economically, it's the same thing. Mechanically, it's just a little different. So if you remember, as early as the 80s, going by these fuel stations where you would see two prices. You would see a cash price and a card price. They call it a dual price model. Fuel stations have been doing it since the 80s. Municipalities have been doing it almost just as long. Anytime you do your car registration, you always pay a little bit more if you use a card. They've been able to do it forever. Well, in the last 10 years or so, legislation has passed and it's been opened up to everyone to be able to use that in most states. And so with dual price, it actually looks a little bit different, in my opinion. It's easier to explain to a new merchant, and it's much easier for the customer to understand, because before it would be like, okay, we're adding a small fee to the ticket, so I'm paying more. How is that a discount? Where now it's a true dual price. I have a cash price and a card price. So my cash price is 100. My card price is 103. So the question is, are you charging me more for using a card, or am I getting to pay less for giving cash? The answer is yes. It's both. So that's the thing. Nobody is driven past, a fuel station and we're like, man, I'm not going here. I'm not paying 3 cents more a gallon because there's two prices. No, it's like if they want to pay cash, they know they get a little discount. If they pay with card, they know it's going to be a little bit more. And that goes back to your point with, the cost of doing business. Well, it's obviously a cost of doing business. I talked to a lot of business owners, and, one more recently has a pretty large commercial tire center. And we had this exact conversation, and he was a little resistant at first, not to the idea, but just the unknown of not doing it before. And I used those examples. And of course he was like, yeah, absolutely. I've totally seen that before. And I asked him if that made him upset. He said, of course not. It's a small difference. It's people don't want to feel like they're being upcharged, but people really don't mind if they're given a choice, as long as it's communicated and and it's transparent. So he's actually saving $40,000 a year in credit card fees. And, I talked to him the other day and I asked him, has anyone been upset about having a choice to pay less? He said, absolutely not. Hasn't had one single complaint about it, even though he thought he might have one or two and was willing to accept those one or two for the overall savings. I mean, that's another salary. It's a whole nother worker, and, potentially another, $100,000 a year in profits from that employee. So he was willing to accept those one or two complaints, but they never materialized. So in the retail environment, it's a dual price. If it's card not present, like someone's sending an invoice, like a plumber, electrician, contractor of any kind, then yeah, you tack on a little service fee. And if you want to write me a check or pay cash, you get a small discount. So that is the nuts and bolts of how the program works. But the majority of what I've been doing is dual price. And everyone has loved it. The business owners have loved it. And the customers really haven't minded at all. Some people of the older generations that appreciate and carry cash like the opportunity to have a discount. But most people are neutral. I mean, most people it doesn't even register. I bought movie tickets the other day on Fandango. It was a $15 movie ticket and there was a $4 convenience charge. I mean, I didn't even notice. I just pay, because I want to go to the movie. It's not something it's even really going to consume any time of my day or energy. So, and like it or not, we're moving as a society more in that direction. And my question would be, is transparency a bad thing? It's like, well, you want to bundle it all and hide all those costs and say, well, that's better for the customer. I've never really seen where having more choices is bad for the customer. But that's a conversation we could definitely have.
Didn't realize I wasn't on the stream. I was just talking. So in my experience, it's been, because I've have a few people resist it or what have you, but 98% of my business is, done online, as far as the billing part of it, the invoicing, so forth and so on. And I've have some people, object to it. And when I make them understand the alternative, because I just don't believe in presenting, okay, you can pay this price or you can pay this price or whatever. It's like, here's my price. And when I send you the invoice, you see, because it's transparent, you see what the card fee is on there for you to pay it. And if you object to that, there are options. I can use another payment system that's going to charge you a higher percentage. Or, you can do snail mail and mail me a check. The difference is that you have to now write this check, get the envelope, put the stamp, go drive to the post, put it in the mail or whatever, then wait for me to get it or whatever, wait till operations grabs all the mail and then go do the deposits and everything else before you end up on my schedule, and if that's a risk you can take depending on why you're hiring us, then okay, fine. I've even had some people do bank wires when it's a bigger ticket because there's the flat fee on the bank wires or what have you. But for the couple of people that objected when I told them, well, hey, you can drive over to the office and leave a check, and they're like, well, you don't have an electronic check. And here's my thing. Here's the argument in society. There's this saying, don't make it hard for people to pay you. I agree with that. I like that, or what have you. But there's another side to that, which is simply you have to have a line somewhere that makes it work on both sides. If you're taking money from everywhere with all of these varying fees and all of these different nuances, that just makes the accounting that much harder, trying to determine what your real margin was on a product or a service because the final number didn't come in. Some of these processors don't compute for taxes in a different state or what have you. Your system, you can do that. So for those that say, well, hey, you should have every payment option possible because you don't want it to be hard for people to pay you. That works in a very, I'm here for everybody type of a mindset, I guess. My services aren't for everybody. Let's just be honest. Everybody can't even afford me. So, okay, I don't do Apple Pay. I don't do Cash App. But here's the reality to those platforms. I've never seen any of these payment platforms where you didn't have to connect a bank account and then enter a debit card or credit card number for that processing, which means you already have what it takes to do business with me. If you want to use these other ones, it means you've already done what's needed to do business with me. And quite honestly, if it's one of those ones where there's I think it's called Green Dot or whatever, where you don't essentially have a bank, hey, that may work for Walmart, who's getting every nickel. If you don't have a bank account, you're probably not my client.
Right.
And so there's even, and I've noticed more and more companies getting into the payment processing area. You know, I get an email a couple times a week from different people, even like Shopify has expanded their platform from just building a site or whatever to going into the payment processing part of it or whatever, which I think that's kind of double dipping, but hey, whatever, you know. But what are some of the things that people have to consider when they're looking at what should I use for above and beyond the fees? Fees vary here, there, whatever. Beyond the fees, what are some of the mechanics that a business owner needs to consider looking at their specific business?
Yeah, it's a tough question just because so many different businesses have different needs. But what I would say initially, there's three things that you can do to really make sure that you're not overspending. And the first one is always check your statement. It's amazing how many businesses I talk to on a day-to-day basis that don't even have access to a statement, know where to get their statement. Believe it or not, 25-30% of small business owners don't even know the name of their current processing company. It's where like 90% of their income comes through that account, right? So it's pretty important. 90% of your revenue or more going through that account. And if it were to go down, it would take them hours just to find out who to call, who to talk to, which is crazy to me, but it happens. But most of them don't have any idea what they're paying. But as far as the mechanics go, I've recently actually considered changing my slogan to "If you don't know payment processing, know your agent." And a friend of mine in a different industry actually coined that. He's not in that industry anymore, so I may take on that slogan. But it's true. It's like I don't know anything about tax prep. I know just enough to keep myself out of trouble and to keep everything organized. But a tax professional's got to do that. It's kind of the same with payment processing. Mechanically, there's a lot that goes into it, which is why the industry is kind of in the situation that it's in, where most business owners don't have any idea, what they're doing. It's designed that way. It's with that in mind. I would say have an agent, and this is where and kind of circle back to right when we got on the show. People go to their bank, and this is kind of the cycle that happens. People go to their bank, they open a bank account. The person that opens their bank account says, "Hey, we do payment processing," hands them a card. It's really just an outsourced relationship to a processing company. And the bank gets a kickback off of that. Every time they send someone over, they get a portion of the profits. Meanwhile, it's white labeled. That new business owner thinks, "Hey, I'm processing with Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Chase." And they think it's this large organization that, has their back, but it's really not. They show up to the bank when they have a problem. They're going to give them a hotline to call somewhere else. So I would definitely make sure you have an agent. And I would say about 5, maybe 10% of people that are in this space are actual independent agents. Most people are sales reps. And I'm not saying they're bad people, but the problem is the, follow the money, right? And there's no financial incentive for customer service beyond the sale. And that's the problem. Once that account comes on board, they may have every intention in the world of delivering, but once that sale is done, once you are on board with them, that person's job is done. The customer service, the support all goes to a totally different person, a different call center, most likely not even in this country. And that person has a boss, and they're going to be pressured to go out and get more sales. And spending more time with you as a business owner and servicing you is actually considered a detriment to them. They want you to go out and get more sales. So working with an independent agent, in the insurance world is kind of the same thing. You have certain companies that are direct, and you have certain companies that have agents. I will never have a policy if I don't have an agent. I just won't do it. I want to have one point of contact. If I need a claim, I want to talk to my guy and know that it's going to be handled. And if I have a problem, I know that he has a vested interest in keeping me happy, a vested interest in making sure that whatever my problem is gets solved. So I will always have an agent. Yes, I'm an agent. So yes, there may be some bias to that, but that doesn't change any of the facts. You know, with my clients or with any of the other agents out there, I would take a bad agent over a great sales rep any day of the week, because no matter how that shakes out, that agent still has a vested interest in making sure that the business owner problems are solved and everything is running smoothly. That's probably the biggest impact that a small business owner can actually have on their payment processing, is making sure that they have an agent. And the last would be the dual pricing, which, you know, hopefully we have some time to dig a little deeper in a minute. But that's where I would start. And that agent can ask all the valid questions and making sure that there are things that you didn't even realize were possible, recurring payments. You know, another prime example is collecting data for advertising, right? You're a hair salon, you're a restaurant, or what, it really doesn't matter. But when you pay somebody, you know, they get receipts via text or email. You can use that data for advertising. You know, you can use that for retargeting. But,
I mean, the level, like, you've opened so many cans right there for us to get into. We're not going to get it all to today. The summary version is, here's what I took from that, if I took nothing else. Number one was that personal relationship in this new DIY type of economy where everybody's looking to save $1 by doing it themselves, getting the information from YouTube University, so forth and so on. Yeah, you just took tax dollars out of your kids' school. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes with that. I mean, I could go down that rabbit hole all day, but the most important part, you really don't have time, you know, to have to deal with all of these things. And I can tell you from personal experience, the relationship factor with Trey has been tremendous, because when something is an issue, I don't know if it's something on the processing end, on the website end. I don't know where it's coming from. And guess what? I don't have time to figure it out. You know, I shoot an email to one guy and he checks the website. And if that's not the issue, we know, hey, call Trey, and he's responding just like that or whatever. And if this is the part I love, he doesn't just try to get rid of me. He's like, hey, you know, okay, if I don't have the answer, let me make this call or whatever. Let's get it worked out. And, you know, and it gets fixed. And when you think about the big picture banks or whatever, man, you'll be on hold listening to elevator music for an hour. You know how much an hour costs me? So, you know, that's a huge deal, and it costs less. You know, that's a big factor. So we're going to pay some bills. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about the hidden costs of payment processing, what it really means to you as a business owner. And when we come back, we're going to get a little bit more into the DIY economy, the gig economy, and also the dual pricing method. We'll be back right after this.
Many small businesses generate great revenue, but suffer from poor cash flow.
Get behind the shield.
Poor cash flow not only restricts the growth of your business, but can bankrupt it.
Get behind the shield.
Is your business holding the burden of payment plans or incomplete account receivables?
Get behind the shield.
Contractors, suppliers, coaches, service providers, and more. If you're holding receivables on your books and it's affecting your cash flow, Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services has the solution.
Get behind the shield.
Call 866-235-4838 to learn how you can have your high-ticket items financed and receive your funding up front without any recourse.
Get behind the shield.
Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services. What your business needs before it needs it.
This is Dr. Tamia Gass with Rejuvenating Chiropractic.
This is Nara Reed with Modified Nutrition Health Coach.
This is Karen Marcel with June Street Barbershop.
This is Tiffany Marcel with Marcel Luxury Realty, and you're listening to Boss Talk Radio.
If you're just tuning in, right, there's a gig economy, and everybody has a payment processor on their phone via Square or some other thing. And what I noticed is that more often than not, it's just the popularity of what people know versus any real examination of benefit. Tell us more about the dual pricing model, what that does for directly for the business owner, and how adaptive really the general public has been to it, because I found that most people really don't have a problem, with the cost of paying for a service, unless it's ridiculous, because I know of a ridiculous one. So a couple of friends and I will buy concert tickets, and whoever came up with we're going to this comedy show or this concert or whatever, we'll buy all the tickets at once to make sure, we're together in a group or whatever. And what I found, like recently, we went to a show at the House of Blues, and the convenience charge per ticket was literally half the price of the ticket. And I was like, so it ended up being, we ended up paying like $27 a piece.
How was the attendance
on the show?
Yeah. Was it packed?
Oh, yeah. It was absolutely packed.
So it wasn't stopping people.
Right.
Wasn't hurting business.
But I was thinking as I was sitting in there like, wow, we pass here, each of us, not specifically right in the downtown area, but generally close enough to have saved $80. We could have easily stopped by here, spent 10 minutes going to the box office and saved that money or whatever. But at the time, it's like, hey, okay, we're all going, great. Somebody went and bought the tickets. We don't think twice about it. And to your point, there's no impact on the attendance. There are some people there that bought their tickets there, but I'm sure even there was some sort of a payment processing fee, just not the ticket processing fee, because the ticket sellers, man, they get it. But so talk about this dual pricing and some of the benefits for business owners.
Well, so what dual pricing is like I said, it's literally having technology create two prices. The thing is that, you don't actually have to change all the pricing in your store or all your services. Essentially what happens is you have a base price, essentially, let's say $100 for a specific service, that becomes your cash price. Okay. And the technology will automatically change the price to a card price 3 to 4% higher, depending on if it's card present or not. And that gives you that dual price. So, kind of circling back to what we were saying before, it's, a lot of people have these preconceived notions, and it's like some people even get kind of defensive, in the beginning because they put themselves in that position, like, well, I wouldn't want to pay a fee, or I wouldn't want to do this, when they've paid a fee hundreds of times, maybe even thousands of times to different businesses for different reasons, sometimes realizing it, most of the time not even realizing it. That's the crazy part. A lot of times people pay these fees for different reasons and they don't even realize it. It's like if I go into a restaurant, and this is kind of the base reality as I see it, right? As a business, it costs more to accept a card than it does cash. It just does. It costs more. So as a business expense, sure, okay, we can call it a business expense. But that doesn't mean that it has to be shouldered by the business owner. And I'll give you an example. If I go into a restaurant and I look at a menu and I see a hamburger on one side and a steak on the other, most reasonable people will assume that the steak is going to cost more. Hamburger's probably going to be $8. The steak's probably going to be $20, $25. Well, why is that? It costs the business more to buy the steak. You know what I mean? If I go get my oil changed, the real nice synthetic oil is going to cost me more than the cheap regular stuff. Why? Well, because the base cost is higher to the business. So it's reasonable to assume that as a customer, I'm going to get charged more to have the more expensive product. So with payment processing, for example, or for some reason, it's like that doesn't count, that it doesn't qualify. And, I really don't understand why that is, and I think it's the banks that really kind of started that. They put that out there, that it's like the cost of doing business, because they're the ones making all the money. They're making money off the interest from the cardholder. They're making all the money off of processing fees from the business owner. So they're making it off of both ends. You know what I mean? They're double dipping. And the way society is going, these banks are trying to attract customers via credit cards, right? That's one of the biggest advertising points, or that's one of the biggest hooks that they have. And I know you've seen them, George. Samuel L. Jackson, what's in your wallet? You know what I mean? You've seen all these different credit card commercials. And what are they doing now in order to attract customers? It's not just about getting a lower interest rate. Those days are behind us. Now it's all about rewards. It's all about points. It's about how much money towards a vacation. It's 3% back on this, 5% back on that. Well, that money's got to come from somewhere. And right now, all that is being shouldered by the small business owners. And so the more and more we head towards that, the more and more expensive it's going to be. So with dual pricing, with various different technology solutions, it essentially eliminates that. The second point would be, is it right for the customer? Is it right for the business owner? And in most cases, not all, but in most cases, yes, it's actually better for the customer, and it's better for the business owner. And I get business owners ask me, well, wait a minute. I see why it's better for me, because I'm not paying the processing fees anymore. How could it possibly be better for the customer? Well, I'll explain. Most businesses have to increase their price. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Every business, if you're in business long enough, you have to increase your prices. Now, in today's inflationary times, it's just becoming to the forefront. Like you can't ignore it anymore. But the reality is that over time, every business has to increase their prices a couple years. Even when everything's running the way it should be, inflation's still 3% a year. So if you keep your prices the same over 5 years, you're losing money. You're losing purchasing power. So every business owner that I've ever asked, well, have you raised your prices before? Well, yes, I have. Did you lose all your customers? No, I didn't. Did you even get any that were really upset? No, not to speak of, maybe one or two, but then I explain that the cost of goods is going up, and they all understand. Well, this is the same thing. It's a price increase, but with a choice, right? So option A, I can increase my price 4% across the board, which is what a lot of business owners think is best for the customer. Or I can increase just one side for customers that pay with a card and still give you the choice to pay less with cash or check. So I would ask that question. Is it better to increase my price with no choice, which all business owners do anyway? Or is it better to increase my price and still offer a lower rate, and give a transparent choice to the customer? And when put that way, it's kind of hard to argue, in my opinion, but you're as the tax guru, I would defer back to you on that.
And what I find is that oftentimes people are just not tuned in on these numbers until the very end. And I always say you have to be proactive if you're talking about saving money on taxes and whatnot. And we have to get rid of this concept that I'm creating a deduction to write off. Well, you're actually spending, and I'm sorry, let's see, what are we talking about here? Maybe 20% tops, usually about 15%, but 20 to 24% is where most people are going to fall. So on $10,000, you're talking about a $2,400 deduction, when in reality you could have kept that money in your pocket reallocated it to another investment and had a better deduction that turned into an R. I'm not going to preach today. But nevertheless, the thing about your system is it's very robust. As I was saying earlier, you have the ability to track inventory. How big of a time saver is that? Oh my God. I don't have inventory. I just know how much time it saves me, and recurring billing and the notifications for upcoming expiring cards and all of this. And then I get the reports. Like, I can literally set charges up by category or whatever, and I know what's selling what, and am I able to make data-driven decisions on that? That is such a time saver in analytics, and it's one of the things I always, it's one of the first places I go to a new coaching client or a new business client when they don't have their books and stuff together. They're like, hey, where are you getting your data from? And oftentimes it's so all over the place that it's a mission to bring it together. And what we find is these are the people that miss tax deadlines. These are the people that struggle with compliance, especially if they lose their accountant or tax professional, it becomes really hectic for them. I always try to empower my clients I always tell them, hey, if I get hit by a plane, I want you to know, what to ask the next person. Yes, I did say a plane because I'm too cool to get killed by a car. It would take a jet to take me out. We know this because I've been hit by cars like 3 or 4 times. Well, I don't have any knees, but that's neither here nor there. So our partner brand, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about payment processing costs. If you would like to take advantage of dual price processing, go to elite8financial.com and click on our business services, or you can do elite8financial.com/car processing services, dash between each one of the words after .com, and you can do a quick application. Trail reach out to you, assess your business model, kind of assess your needs. And that's the other thing that's beautiful is you won't be oversold. You're going to get what you need at the level that you need it. If you need something else later, you can make an adjustment. It's a beautiful thing. So please, if you are taking payments from everywhere, or here's the big one. Oh, we almost missed this one before we got out of here, Trey. If you are like a contractor or some other small service provider, and you don't have the ability to take a credit card, you are losing. Especially if you offer high ticket items. I have a $11,000 project that I need done, but I want the specific guy to do it, and he doesn't take, he doesn't take credit cards. He's like, yeah, I gotta invoice you and da da da. And like, yeah, no, you don't take credit cards. I don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna leave my cash over here to work for me. You don't take this credit card, I can't do business with you. So if you're in one of those positions, please, elite8financial.com/card processing services. Get behind the shield. Let us get you squared away. Stop commingling your funds or whatever. And Trey, did you know that if you set up something with PayPal, and I don't know when they started this because it was after I found you, but do you know that if you invoice somebody and they pay it, you can't have access to the funds until they also authorize that I guess it's part of their payment protection or whatever, until they say, yes, the job has been done, yes, it's been done correctly or whatever. And even then, it's still another 2 or 3 days after that before you can have access to those funds, unless And that's 2 or 3 days before they send it to your bank. So you're really looking at 4 or 5 days, unless you pick the instant option, in which case now you've paid twice. You paid the 4.5% to use the service, then you paid an additional 1.5% to get access to it after somebody else had to clear. Like, that's a lot.
Well, and you brought up something that I want to touch on really quick. Huge point. If you are a high ticket service based company, and these are really more what I specialize in: auto repair, tax professionals, plumbers, electricians, cabinets, countertops, anything, AC, HVAC, huge one. I got a client the other day that was using Square, and the reason I got the client is because the customer disputed the transaction for something that was not the business owner's fault whatsoever. Dude just didn't want to pay, or he broke something on the HVAC unit that wasn't under warranty. He charged it back. Well, guess what? The business owner not only lost the money from the credit card sale, that $2,000-3,000, he also lost the money for the parts that he put in, which cost another $1,500. So he got hit twice because that customer charged that back, and because he was with Square, had no one to talk to, had no contact to help work that out for him. So the guy is just out of there. Please, I'm literally begging. If you don't do business with me, and you're a high ticket item business, anything over, let's say $500, get a traditional merchant account.
It's actually $600, and that's another part of it, is that the reporting now is crazy. So I'm going to let you guys in on a secret, because we said we were going to talk about the gig economy. And one of the things that the gig economy did was make employees feel super entitled because they could take a job paying less with less demands and supplement their income in other areas. But here's what I found happen. We were coming out of 2019, and we were getting all of these letters from the IRS for people who worked for these different gig providers, the Ubers and the DoorDash and so forth and so on. And what was happening is, let's say the total earnings from your service, not your earnings, just the total revenue generated, was $30,000, right? They were sending in 1099s to the IRS for $30,000. So when you have your books and your dashboard or whatever, because they weren't giving you 1099s, they were just reporting this to the IRS as 30 grand or whatever. But when you looked at your dashboard, you seen that you actually got paid like 22 grand before fees. And then after your fees and this and that and the other, you got $17,000. And that was still before your gas, oil changes. And so when you reported to the IRS saying, I got these 17 grand, this is my expenses, and the IRS saying, no, you got 30 grand. And then the burden of proof is on you, not them. And they didn't issue you a statement. So this was a big deal. I fought this for several clients. One of the biggest was one of my physicians that had a contractor, an outside contractor position to her own business. And it was literally ridiculous because the payments went into the place where she was contracted from, and her revenue split was literally 60%. She got 60%, but they reported the entire amount to the IRS. And even though they provided her a letter with specific instruction and we did all of that or whatever, the IRS is saying, hey, now you got this $100,000 or whatever, and you only reported 60, we got a problem, you know. And they fought us tooth and nail on that. It took us 2 years to get that cleaned up, and, you know, push back on that. Part of that was because the IRS was just behind because of COVID, but that was like really a thing. And what I told her was, hey, instead of them collecting a payment to pay you, let them collect the payment, and instead of doing a distribution, you just send them this auto invoice, you know, that you don't have to be concerned with, and you have real documentation, you know, and it worked. It worked. So what do you want to leave the people with before we get out of here?
Just like I said, if you know, the big 3 things: check your statements. Biggest thing, the most immediate impact that you can have is check your statements. And if you don't have access to a statement, get access to a statement. I mean, if you don't listen to anything else, do that. I mean, everyone should have access to that. I mean, I check my bank account regularly. I don't, you know, it kind of seems like one of those things where everyone should do, but not everyone has the time, or doesn't think they have the time. Make the time. And if you don't, a second step would be, you know, call your company, find out if you have an agent. You most likely don't. If you don't, find one. And if not, I'd be more than happy to help you out. Get in contact with George. You know, we'll look over everything. And to your point earlier, you won't be upsold. And going from Square, PayPal, Venmo, any of those, they're all generalized, cookie cutter, one size fit all programs. But every business is different. I'm telling you, there's no such thing as one size fits all. You can kind of make it work as best that you can. Versus, just like with your tax planning, you want to have something that specifically fits your business, and not just the fees. I'm talking the functionality, to your point. Whether you need invoicing, whether you need recurring billing, whether you need something hooked up to a website, whether you need, you know, inventory to talk to that. I mean, there could be a lot of moving parts and a lot of time, which is money, saved on the back end just by, you know, having something set up for your specific business. So that's all I got, George.
And I have to double down on the support part, man. It's been literally 3 years now since I've been working with Trey, and it was probably 60 days in. I was like, dude, you changed my business. Like, everybody needs to know about this. And he was like, hey, George, just partner with me, and, you know, we can get the word out or whatever. And we've been saving folks time and money. And, you know, when you do that, you have more time to invest more of your money into ways to generate your money. It's not, you know, like I always tell people, this thing about wealth is it's not cookie cutter, it's not quick, but you literally have to be tuned in to every single dollar all the time. Trey talked about checking your statements. Some people don't have time for that. Hey, guess what? That's why there are people you can hire for that. And the people that you hire will save you more money than you will spend on them. Imagine finding out you hire an accountant and they find out 13 grand was missing from your income, you know, and now charging people up to account for, hey, where's this 13 grand? You know, sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's external, but your talent is whatever that talent is. And you should be blessing the world with that talent, not trying to track down invoices and all of this kind of stuff.
Well, you wouldn't buy a house on your own. Most people wouldn't. You wouldn't go to court on your own. Most people wouldn't. You wouldn't do all your taxes on your own. Most people wouldn't. Payments is the same thing. It's just as complicated. Mm-hmm. So, you know, have a professional that really has your back and has a vested interest.
That part.
and grow, that will grow with you. You know, as your payment partner, the better you do, the better I do. You know what I mean? I want your business to grow. I want your fees to be as small impact on your business as possible. That's better for me. So that's the relationship you want.
Exactly. So you guys been tuned in to Boss Talk Radio. We're going to get out of here in just a minute. But if you tuned in late, I want to remind you, if you are currently a tax professional looking to take your business, your education, your professionalism to the next level, and or you're looking to get into the tax business, make sure you go and check out Elite 8 Tax Pro Academy. Right now, well, not right now, it starts on Monday. We are running an early bird special where you'll save 10% on your annual access. The website to go and register for that is elitepts.com/product/early bird tax pro academy registration. And you'll simply go there and input your information. If you have questions about that, of course, you can reach out to us at 866-235-4838. This is George Dandridge, your Texas tax expert, and I will see you guys in the next week. See you soon.
Capital, the number one reason businesses fail.
Boss Talk Radio, keeping it real, yeah, that's for sure. I said a Boss Talk Radio, here for your needs, we'll crack the code. Need a boss, ooh, need a boss, ooh, yeah, need a boss, he's the boss, need a boss, need a boss.